The space station called Harmony's Reach floated in the darkness between stars. It was a massive place where aliens from dozens of worlds came to trade goods and make deals. Thousands of beings walked through its wide halls every day. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had skin in colors that humans could not even name. And among all these strange creatures, there were also humans. Marcus Chen was a freight captain. He moved cargo from one star system to another. It was honest work that paid well enough. But the best part of his job was that his 8-year-old daughter Lily could travel with him during her school breaks. Her mother had passed away 3 years ago. Marcus did not like leaving Lily alone on Earth, so she came with him to the stars. Lily loved the space station. Everything amazed her. The aliens with their strange bodies and stranger languages, the food stalls selling meals she could not pronounce, the huge windows that showed the endless black of space dotted with distant suns. She walked beside her father with wide eyes, holding his hand and asking questions about everything she saw. Humans were still new to the galactic community. They had only been part of it for 12 years. Most alien species saw humans as clever but young, useful for trade, but not important in the grand order of things. Some species looked down on humans the way a grown person looked down on a small child pretending to be an adult. The Velanthi were one such species. They were tall beings with pale blue skin and sharp claws on their hands. Their eyes were large and yellow, and they moved with the pride of a people who believed they were better than everyone else. The Velanthi hegemony controlled hundreds of worlds. Their ships were powerful. Their armies were feared, and they never let anyone forget it. Commander Syra Velkath was a high-ranking officer in the Velanthi military. She stood in the main trading hall of the station, wearing her ceremonial uniform and holding a glass of expensive wine. Other Velanthi officers surrounded her, laughing at her jokes and agreeing with everything she said. Syra enjoyed the attention. She believed she deserved it. Marcus and Lily walked through the crowded hall. The little girl was looking up at a group of aliens with feathers instead of hair when she bumped into someone. The impact was small, but the glass of wine flew from the person's hand and splashed across their uniform. Lily looked up and saw the tall blue alien staring down at her. The alien's yellow eyes were filled with rage. Lily did not understand what she had done wrong, but she knew she was in trouble. "I am sorry," Lily said quickly. "I did not see you. I am very sorry." Syra Velkath looked at the wine stain on her ceremonial uniform. Then she looked at the small human child. In Velanthi culture, being touched by what they called a lesser species was a terrible insult. It did not matter that it was an accident. It did not matter that Lily was just a child. Syra felt only anger and disgust. "Filthy vermin," Syra hissed. Her hand moved faster than Marcus could react. Her clawed fingers struck Lily across the face. The blow was hard and cruel. The sharp claws cut deep into the little girl's cheek, leaving 3 bloody gashes from her eye to her jaw. Lily screamed. Marcus caught his daughter as she fell. Blood poured from her wounds and covered his hands. He looked up at the Velanthi officer with shock and horror in his eyes. Around them, dozens of aliens had stopped to watch. Some looked disturbed. Others simply looked away. "You hurt my daughter," Marcus said. His voice shook with rage. "She is a child. She is only 8 years old." Syra wiped her bloody claws on a cloth offered by one of her officers. "Then teach your offspring to stay away from its betters," she said calmly. "Be grateful I showed mercy. On my world, such vermin would be destroyed." Station security arrived within moments. They were aliens from a neutral species, trained to keep peace on the station. Marcus expected them to arrest the Velanthi officer. He expected justice. He expected someone to care that his daughter was bleeding in his arms. He was wrong. "Commander Velkath has diplomatic immunity," the security chief explained. He would not meet Marcus's eyes. "The Velanthi hegemony has protected status on this station. We cannot take action against their officers." "She attacked my daughter," Marcus shouted. "Look at her face. Look at what that monster did to a child." "I am sorry," the security chief said. He did not sound sorry. He sounded tired and afraid. "The hegemony is too important. Their trade agreements keep this station running. There is nothing we can do. Syra Velkath laughed. It was a cold and ugly sound. You see, human, you are nothing here. Your offspring is nothing. Learn your place in this galaxy, or learn it through more painful lessons. She turned and walked away. Her officers followed her, some of them looking back at the bleeding child with amusement in their eyes. No one stopped them. No one said a word. Marcus lifted his daughter and began walking toward the medical bay. Lily was crying softly, her small hands pressed against her wounded face. The blood would not stop flowing. Marcus felt tears in his own eyes, but he also felt something else. Something cold and hard forming in his chest. It was a feeling that humans knew very well. It was the feeling that came before war as he walked. He passed a group of humans who had watched the whole thing. They were traders and workers and travelers. Normal people going about their normal lives. But now they stood in silence, staring at the little girl with blood on her face. One woman stepped forward. She had short dark hair and cold gray eyes. She did not speak to Marcus. She did not offer comfort or help. She simply held up a small device, and Marcus realized she had recorded everything. Every moment. Every word. Every drop of blood. The woman nodded once at Marcus. Then she turned and disappeared into the crowd. Marcus did not know her name. He did not know that she was Major Sarah Cross of the United Earth Defense Force. He did not know that she was part of a unit that officially did not exist. He did not know that the recording she had just made would be transmitted to Earth within the hour. All he knew was that his daughter was hurt, and no one would help them. But Marcus was wrong about that too. Within hours, the recording spread through every human network in the galaxy. Ships received it in deep space. Colonies watched it on distant worlds. On Earth, in buildings that appeared on no map, people in uniforms gathered to watch a Volanthe. Officers strike a human child and laugh about it. The message that went out was short and simple. It did not need to be long. Every human who received it understood exactly what it meant. One of our children was harmed. There must be an answer. In the medical bay, doctors worked to close the wounds on Lily's face. She would survive. She would heal. But she would carry scars for the rest of her life. 3 lines across her cheek where an alien struck her for the crime of being a child in the wrong place. Marcus sat beside her bed and held her hand. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know that across the galaxy, humans were beginning to move. He did not know that the Volanthe hegemony had just made the worst mistake in their long history. All he knew was that someone had hurt his little girl. And somewhere in his broken heart, he knew that there would be a price to pay. 3 days had passed since the incident on Harmony's Reach. 3 days since Commander Sarah Velkath had struck a human child and walked away without punishment. 3 days of silence from the galactic authorities, who were supposed to protect the innocent. Lily. Chen was recovering in her hospital bed on the station. The doctors had done their best work. The wounds were closed and healing, but nothing could erase the 3 scars that now marked her face. Every time she looked in a mirror, she would remember the moment when an alien had hurt her, for no reason at all. Marcus had filed complaints with every authority he could find. He contacted the station administration. He sent messages to the Galactic Council. He even tried to reach the Volanthe hegemony directly, demanding an apology and justice for his daughter. Every request was rejected. Every complaint was ignored. The answer was always the same. Commander Velkath has diplomatic immunity. The matter is closed. The Volanthe hegemony released an official statement about the incident. They called it an appropriate correction of an undisciplined primitive. They said the human child had insulted a superior officer and received a minor punishment. They expressed no regret. They offered no apology. They made it clear that they believed they had done nothing wrong. Humans across the galaxy read that statement. They read it on their ships, and in their colonies, and in their homes on Earth. And they felt something that the Volanthe did not understand. They felt a cold and quiet anger that was more dangerous than any scream or threat. Far from the space station, In the darkness between stars, the massive warship used Prometheus moved through space. It was the primary military vessel of the United Earth Defense Force. On its bridge stood Admiral Kira Okonkwo, a woman with dark skin and silver hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. A message arrived on her private channel. It came from Earth Command with the highest level of encryption. Admiral Okonkwo read it 3 times to make sure she understood. Then she called her senior officers to the briefing room. Operation Silent Thunder is authorized, she told them. Her voice was calm and steady. We have been given permission to respond to the attack on the Chen child. Her officers nodded. They had all seen the recording. They had all felt the same anger that every human felt. Now they had orders to do something about it. The galaxy did not know the truth about human military power. They saw humans as clever traders and brave explorers. They knew humans came from a harsh world where survival was difficult. But they did not know about the Deathworlder legions. These were elite units made up of humans from Earth's most dangerous environments. Soldiers who had grown up in burning deserts and frozen mountains and poisonous jungles. Men and women who could survive conditions that would kill most alien species in minutes. They were trained for missions that seemed impossible. And they had been waiting for exactly this kind of moment. While the human military prepared in secret, the Galactic Council gathered to discuss what they called the human complaint. The Council was the closest thing the galaxy had to a government. Representatives from dozens of species met in a great hall to debate and argue and make decisions that affected billions of lives. Most of them did not take the human complaint seriously. The child was in the way, said the representative from a species of tall insect-like creatures. The Valenthi officer responded as any officer would. This is not a matter for the council. The humans are young and emotional, said another representative. They do not understand how things work in the galaxy. Give them time, and they will forget this incident. Ambassador Korath of the Valenthi hegemony stood at the center of the hall. He was an old male with pale blue skin, covered in ritual scars that showed his high rank. He looked at the human delegation with open contempt. The humans should be grateful that Commander Valkuth showed such restraint, he said. In the old days, we would have destroyed their entire species for such an insult. Let them whine and complain. The hegemony has crushed civilizations far older and stronger than theirs. The human delegation sat quietly through all of this. Dr. Elena Vasquez was their ambassador, a woman with gray hair and a kind face that hid a sharp mind. She listened to every insult and every dismissal without showing any emotion. When it was her turn to speak, she stood slowly. The hall grew quiet. Something about her calm manner made even the oldest species pay attention. We came to this council seeking justice, she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the great hall. A child was attacked, an innocent girl who meant no harm to anyone. We asked for the officer responsible to face consequences for her actions. We were told no. She paused and looked around the room. We filed complaints through proper channels. We were told no. We appealed to your laws and your traditions of fairness. We were told no. At every step, we followed your rules and asked for your help. And at every step, you showed us that our children do not matter to you. Ambassador Korath laughed. What will you do about it, human? Cry? Complain? Your species is nothing but noise. Dr. Vasquez turned to look directly at him. Her eyes were cold now. The kindness had disappeared. I want the council to understand something, she said. We asked nicely. We followed your procedures. We gave you every chance to do the right thing. Remember that. When you think about what happens next, remember that we asked nicely first. Most of the delegates did not understand what she meant. They heard the words, but they did not feel the warning in them. A human threatening the galaxy seemed laughable to them, but a few of the older species understood. They were the ones who remembered the ancient records. They were the ones who knew what Deathworlder meant. They grew very quiet and looked at each other with worried eyes. The council voted to take no action on the human complaint. Ambassador Korath smiled with satisfaction. He had won. The humans had been put in their place. On the space station Harmony's Reach, Commander Syra Velkath packed her belongings and prepared to return home. She had received orders to report to the hegemony homeworld. No doubt, they wanted to congratulate her for standing up to the primitive humans. She would probably receive a medal. She boarded her personal cruiser with her crew and set course for Valenthi space. As the ship pulled away from the station, she looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there were the humans with their complaints and their hurt feelings. She laughed at the thought of them. She did not notice the small ship that detached from a cargo dock at the same moment. It was barely visible against the darkness of space. Its hull was painted black, and its engines ran silent. It matched her course perfectly and followed at a distance that her sensors could not detect. Inside, small ship, were 6 humans. They wore no uniforms and carried no flags. Their equipment was simple but deadly. Their leader was a woman with short dark hair and cold gray eyes, the same woman who had recorded the attack on Lily Chen. Major Sarah Cross looked at her team and nodded once. "The target is moving," she said. "We follow, we wait. And when the moment is right, we show Commander Velkath what happens when you harm a human child." The hunt had begun. The stealth ship Ghost of Reason moved through space like a shadow. It had no running lights. Its engines made no heat signature. To any sensor in the galaxy, it looked like empty space. But inside that invisible ship were 6 of the most dangerous humans ever trained. Major Sarah Cross sat in the command chair and watched the Valanthi cruiser on her screen. They had been following Commander Sarah Velkath for 5 days now. 5 days of silence and patience and waiting for the perfect moment. Her team sat around her in the small cabin. There was not much room on a stealth ship. They slept in shifts and ate cold rations and spoke in whispers, even though no one could hear them. But none of them complained. They all knew why they were here. Sergeant David Stone was from the Australian outback. He had grown up in a land of burning heat and poisonous creatures. He could track any target across any terrain and never make a sound. Corporal Maria Santos came from the mountains of Peru. She had climbed peaks so high that the air itself became thin and deadly. Her body was built for survival in conditions that would kill most humans in minutes. Private. First Class Yuki Tanaka was raised in the northern islands of Japan. She knew cold the way most people knew warmth. Winter was her home and her weapon. Specialist Omar Hassan had survived the deserts of North Africa. He understood heat and thirst and the endless patience required to outlast the sun itself. Private Chen Wei was the youngest of the group. He had volunteered for this mission the moment he saw the recording. Lily Chen was not his relative, but she shared his family name. That was enough. "Tell me again why we are doing this," Chen Wei said quietly. It was not a question of doubt. He just wanted to hear the answer out loud. Major Cross did not look away from her screen. "A Valanthi officer struck a human child," she said. She cut open the face of an 8-year-old girl, and then she laughed about it. "The council refused to act," Sergeant Stone added. "Diplomatic immunity, trade agreements, politics. So we act instead," said Corporal Santos. "Because if we do not protect our children, then we are not worth protecting at all." Wei nodded. That was the answer he needed to hear. On the Valanthi cruiser, Commander Syra Velkath was enjoying her journey home. Her private quarters were large and comfortable. Her crew served her the finest food and drink. She spent her days imagining the rewards that awaited her. Perhaps a promotion. Perhaps command of a larger ship. The hegemony valued officers who showed strength against lesser species. Her second-in-command came to her with a report. His name was Lieutenant Kress, and he was younger and more cautious than his commander. "We have detected a ship following us," he said. "It appears on our sensors for brief moments and then disappears. I believe it may be human." Syra laughed at him. "One small human ship against a Valanthi military cruiser? Let them follow. What can they possibly do to us?" "Commander, the humans have shown unexpected capabilities before. Perhaps we should call for escort ships from the fleet and show weakness." "Never." Syra waved her hand in dismissal. The humans are primitive creatures who barely understand space travel. If they are foolish enough to attack us, we will destroy them and add another victory to my record. Now leave me. I wish to rest." Lieutenant Kress wanted to argue, but he knew better. He bowed and left the commander's quarters, but he could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. The human ship moved like nothing he had ever seen. It appeared and disappeared as if it could bend space itself, and the humans on board had been following them for days without making any hostile move. They were waiting for something. But what? The answer came on the sixth night of the pursuit. The ghost of reason accelerated from the darkness without warning. One moment the space around the Volanthi cruiser was empty. The next moment the human ship was alongside, matching speed perfectly. Before the Volanthi crew could react, a breach pod slammed into their hull and cut through the metal like paper. 6. Humans poured through the opening. The Volanthi were not weak. They were taller than humans and stronger in many ways. Their claws could cut through armor. Their reflexes were fast. They had conquered dozens of species in their long history, but they had never fought humans at close. Ranged Major Cross moved through the corridors like a ghost. Her rifle made soft sounds as it fired, each shot finding its target. She did not waste bullets. She did not miss. Every Volanthi soldier who faced her fell before they could raise their weapons. Sergeant Stone and Corporal Santos worked as a team. They swept through the lower decks, clearing room after room with perfect coordination. The Volanthi tried to organize a defense, but the humans were too fast. They struck and moved and struck again. Before anyone could understand what was happening, Specialist Hassan disabled the ship's communications. Private Tanaka secured the engine room. Private Chenwei guarded the breach point, making sure no one could escape. The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, the Volanthi cruiser belonged to the humans. Lieutenant Kress was found hiding in a storage compartment. He surrendered without fighting. The look on his face showed that he finally understood what he was dealing with. These were not the primitive humans as people had laughed about. These were predators. Major Cross walked through the ship until she reached the commander's quarters. The door was locked and reinforced. Syra Velkath had sealed herself inside when the attack began. She believed the door would protect her until help arrived. She was wrong. Cross placed a small device on the door. 3 seconds later, the reinforced metal fell apart like wet paper. She stepped through the opening and found Commander Syra Velkath standing in the center of the room, holding a weapon with shaking hands. "Stay back," Syra shouted. "I am a commander of the Volanthi hegemony. I have diplomatic immunity. You cannot touch me." Major Cross said nothing. She simply raised her rifle and shot the weapon out of Syra's hand. The Volanthi screamed in pain and fell to her knees. "Diplomatic immunity," Cross said slowly, "does not apply to human justice." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small screen. On it was a photograph of a little girl with 3 scars across her face. Lily Chen smiled in the picture despite her wounds. She was trying to be brave. "Do you remember her?" Cross asked. "She was 8 years old. She bumped into you by accident, and you cut her face open with your claws." Syra looked at the picture. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. It might have been recognition. It might have been fear. It was not regret. "She was in my way," Syra said. "She deserved what she received." Major Cross nodded slowly. "Thank you for saying that," she said. "Now, I do not have to feel sorry for what comes next." She signaled to her team. They entered the room and secured Commander Syra Velkath with restraints designed for beings much stronger than humans. The Volanthi struggled and screamed threats, but it did not matter. She was a prisoner now. The Ghost of Reason sent a single transmission to the Galactic Council. The message was short and direct. "We have Commander Syra Velkath in custody. She will face trial for her crime against a human child. Any attempt to interfere with this process will be considered an act of war against Earth and all human territories. We asked nicely first. You did not listen. Now we will handle this ourselves." The message reached every government in the galaxy within hours. Some species reacted with outrage. Some reacted with fear. And some, the ones who had suffered under Volanthi arrogance for centuries, reacted with something that looked almost like hope the humans had done, something that no one else had dared to do. They had said no to the hegemony, and they had made it stick. The Global Court of Human Rights stood in the heart of Geneva, Switzerland. It was an old building made of white stone and glass, built in a time when humans still fought wars against each other. Now it served a different purpose. Now it was the place where humanity showed the galaxy what justice looked like. Commander Syra Velkath sat in the defendant's chair. Her wrists were bound with restraints that even her strength could not break. Her uniform had been taken away and replaced with simple gray clothing. She was no longer a proud officer of the Valanthy hegemony. She was a prisoner waiting to learn her fate. The courtroom was filled with humans. From every nation on Earth, journalists recorded every moment. Cameras broadcast the trial across human space, and through leaked signals that someone had made sure to create, the entire galaxy was watching. Ambassador Korath of the Valanthy hegemony appeared on screens throughout the courtroom. He had demanded the right to address the court, and the humans had allowed it. They wanted everyone to hear what he had to say. "This is an act of war," Korath shouted. His blue face was dark with rage. "You have kidnapped a military officer of the hegemony. You have violated every law of the Galactic Council. Release Commander Velkath immediately, or face the consequences." The chief judge was an elderly woman named Justice Margaret B. She had white hair and calm eyes, and a voice that carried the weight of decades of experience. She listened to Korath's threats without any change in her expression. "Ambassador," she said when he finished, "your government was given the opportunity to handle this matter through proper channels. You refused. You declared that your officer had diplomatic immunity. You stated that the attack on a human child was, and I quote, an appropriate correction of an undisciplined primitive. Ow. These are the terms under which the Valanthy hegemony joined the Galactic Council. Article 7 clearly states that diplomatic immunity does not extend to crimes committed against children of any species. Your own government agreed to this provision 200 years ago." Korath's face changed. He had not expected the humans to know about that article. Most species had forgotten it existed. "That provision has never been enforced," he said. "It is symbolic. It means nothing." "It means something to us," Justice Obi replied. "Commander Velkath attacked a child. Under both human law and the laws your government agreed to follow, she must face trial. This court will proceed." The trial lasted 3 days. The prosecution presented evidence that could not be denied. They showed the recording of the attack from multiple angles. They displayed medical reports that documented the wounds on Lily Chen's face. They brought witnesses from 12 different species, who had seen everything and were willing to speak the truth. A doctor explained the damage that Valanthy claws could do to human flesh. She showed diagrams of Lily's injuries. 3 deep cuts that had come within millimeters of the child's eye. Permanent scars that would mark her face for the rest of her life. The defendant struck with full force, the doctor said. This was not a warning or a light tap. This was an attack intended to cause serious harm. If the angle had been slightly different, the child would have lost her eye. Or her life. Syra Velkath's defense was simple. She claimed that she had acted according to Valanthy custom. She argued that the child had insulted her by touching her. She insisted that diplomatic immunity protected her from human courts. When she took the stand to speak in her own defense, she showed no regret. "The human child invaded my space," she said. "On my world, such behavior from a lesser being would be punished with death. I showed mercy by only marking her face. The humans should be grateful for my restraint." The courtroom was silent. Every human who heard those words felt the same cold anger that had been building since the day of the attack. But they did not shout or threaten or lose control. They simply watched and listened and remembered. On the second day of the trial, a special witness appeared. Lily Chen was too young to come to Geneva. Instead, she appeared on a screen, speaking from her hospital room on Harmony's Reach. Her face was healing, but the 3 scars were clearly visible. She looked at the camera. With the honest eyes of a child who did not understand why the universe had been so cruel too. The prosecutor asked her to tell the court what happened. I was walking with my daddy, Lily said. Her voice was soft but steady. I was looking at the aliens because they were so interesting. I did not see the blue lady. I bumped into her by accident. I said I was sorry. What happened after you apologized? The prosecutor asked. She hit me. Lily touched the scars on her face. It hurt very much. There was a lot of blood. I did not understand why she was so angry. I just wanted to see the aliens. Do you want Commander Velkath to be punished? Lily thought about the question for a long moment. I just want to know why she hurt me, she said finally. I was not trying to be bad. I was just looking around. Why did she have to hurt me? She looked directly at the camera, directly at Syra Velkath, sitting in the courtroom thousands of light years away. I am only 8 years old, Lily said. I do not understand why you hate me so much. The courtroom was completely silent. Even Syra Velkath had no response. For just a moment, something flickered in her yellow eyes. It might have been the first hint of shame she had ever felt in her life. On the third day, the jury delivered its verdict. Guilty Commander Syra Velkath was found guilty of assault on a minor with a deadly weapon. Under human law, the crime carried a severe sentence. The judge would announce the punishment the following day, but before the court could adjourn, new information arrived. Admiral Okonkwo appeared on the courtroom screens. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. I regret to inform this court that the Valanthi hegemony has dispatched a military fleet to the Sol system, she said. 300 warships are currently approaching Earth space. Ambassador Korath has issued an ultimatum. If Commander Velkath is not released within 48 hours, they will consider it an act of war. The courtroom erupted in noise. Journalists shouted questions. Officials rushed to make calls. Fear spread through the room like a cold wind. Justice Obi called for order. When the room was quiet again, she looked at the screen showing Admiral Okonkwo. What is our response to this threat? She asked Admiral Okonkwo, almost smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Our response is simple, she said. We do not negotiate with those who threaten our children. Commander Velkath will serve her sentence. If the hegemony wants war over that, then war is what they will get. Admiral 300 warships is a massive force. Can we defend ourselves? Your Honor, with respect, I suggest the hegemony should be asking themselves that question. She paused. We have been preparing for this moment for 12 years. Let them come. They will learn what it means to threaten human children. The screen went dark. In the defendant's chair, Syra Velkath finally understood that she was not going to be rescued. The humans were not backing down. They were not afraid. They were willing to fight a war over what she had done to one small girl. For the first time since her capture, she began to feel real fear, and somewhere on Harmony's reach. Lily Chen looked up at the stars and wondered if everything was going to be okay. The Valanthi fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system like a storm rolling across the sky. 300 warships in perfect formation, their weapons armed and ready. It was the largest military force the hegemony had deployed in over a century. They had come to teach the humans a lesson about power and fear, and knowing your place in the galaxy. Fleet Commander Toreth stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the blue planet in the distance. Earth, the homeworld of the species that had dared to defy the hegemony. He felt nothing but contempt for them. They were young and foolish and did not understand that some forces could not be resisted. Open a channel to the human government, he ordered. I will deliver our ultimatum personally. His message was broadcast across every frequency. Every human in the solar system heard his words. People of Earth, you have committed an act of war against the Valanthi hegemony. You have kidnapped one of our officers and subjected her to a false trial. We demand her immediate release. If Commander Velkath is not returned to us within 1 hour, we will reduce your cities to ash and your civilization to memory. You have no fleet capable of stopping us. Surrender now, and we may show mercy. On Earth, in the command center of the United Defense Force, Admiral Kira Okonkwo listened to the threat. Her officers stood around her, waiting for orders. None of them showed fear. They had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. "How many ships do they have?" she asked. 312, Admiral. All combat vessels. Enough firepower to destroy every major city on Earth several times over? Okonkwo nodded slowly. "And how many do we have?" Her communications officer smiled. "Ready to find out, Admiral?" She gave the order. Across the solar system, human ships began to appear. They emerged from hidden stations beneath the ice of Europa. They launched from bases buried in the asteroids. They rose from facilities on the dark side of the moon that had never appeared on any map. More ships came from Mars and from the rings of Saturn and from places so secret that even the human governments had forgotten. They existed. The galaxy had believed that humans had a small defensive fleet, perhaps 50 ships at most, enough to protect their trade routes and discourage pirates. Nothing that could challenge a real military power. They were wrong. The human fleet that assembled to face the Valanthi numbered over 400 warships. They were smaller than the enemy vessels, but they were faster and more advanced and crewed by beings who had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every single day. Fleet. Commander Torith stared at his sensors in disbelief. This was impossible. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to surrender at the first sign of real force. Where had all these ships come from? Admiral Okonkwo opened a channel to the Valanthi fleet. "Commander Torith," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. "I am Admiral Kira Okonkwo of the United Earth Defense Force. You have threatened our world and our people. You have demanded that we release a criminal who attacked one of our children. I am here to give you our answer." She paused to let her words sink in. "The answer is no. Cannot win this battle," Torith said. His voice was less confident now. "Even if your numbers match ours, the hegemony has been fighting wars for 10,000 years. Your species discovered space travel less than 2 centuries ago." "You are correct that we are young," Okonkwo replied. "But you are wrong about why that matters. We grew up on a world where everything tried to kill us. The animals wanted to eat us. The weather wanted to freeze us or burn us. Even the plants and the water and the air could be deadly. Every human alive today is descended from ancestors who survived all of that." She leaned forward in her chair. "We are not brave because we do not know fear. We are brave because we know fear very well, and we have learned to fight anyway. Your species has forgotten what that feels like. You have been powerful for so long that you have forgotten how to struggle, how to sacrifice, how to protect the things that matter most." She pointed at the distant Earth.
"Oh.
"On that planet is a little girl with scars on her face. Your officer put them there because the child bumped into her by accident. And your government told us that it did not matter, that our children are not worth protecting, that we should accept their pain and be grateful we were not punished more." Her voice hardened. "We're here to teach you something, Commander. Human children matter. Every single one of them. And we will burn down the galaxy itself before we let anyone hurt them without consequences." The two fleets faced each other across the darkness of space. Weapons were armed on both sides. A single shot would start a war that could destroy billions of lives. Commander Torith looked at the human ships. He looked at the tactical data showing their speed and firepower. He looked at the faces of his own officers, who were no longer confident of victory. And then he received a message from home, the Valanthi. The council had been watching the confrontation. They had seen the human fleet appear from nowhere. They had heard Admiral Okonkwo's words, and they had made a calculation that their species was very good at making. The cost of this war was too high, Commander. Torith read the orders 3 times before he believed them. Then he opened a channel to the human fleet. "Admiral Okonkwo," he said slowly, "the Valanthia hegemony has decided that Commander Velkath acted without proper authority. She will face your justice system for her actions. Our fleet will withdraw from your space." He paused, struggling with the next words. "We do not wish war with Earth." The Valanthi fleet turned and began to move away. 300 warships that had come to destroy humanity were leaving without firing a single shot. It was the first time in recorded history that the hegemony had backed down from a fight. Across the galaxy, every species watched in stunned silence. The humans had one, not through destruction or conquest, but through strength and unity and an absolute refusal to abandon their principles. Commander. Sira Velketh served her sentence in a human prison. She had years to think about what she had done and why it had brought such consequences. Whether she ever felt true regret, no one could say, but she never harmed another child for the rest of her life. On Harmony's Reach, Marcus Chen stood with his daughter on an observation deck. The stars spread out before them like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Lily's scars were healing well. The doctors said they would fade with time, though they would never disappear completely. "Daddy," Lily said, "are the aliens afraid of us now?" Marcus knelt beside his daughter and looked into her eyes. "Some of them might be," he said honestly. "But that is not what this was about. We did not do this to make people afraid. We did it to show them something important." "What?" "That there are some things worth fighting for, that hurting innocent people has consequences, and that humans will always, always protect those who cannot protect themselves." He touched her scarred cheek gently. "Especially children." Lily thought about this for a moment. Then she smiled. "I think that is a good thing to show them," she said. Marcus smiled back and hugged his daughter tight. Outside the window, the stars continued to shine. In the weeks and months that followed, something changed in the galaxy. Species that had been bullied by powerful empires for centuries began to ask questions. If the humans could stand up to the hegemony, what else was possible? If one civilization could say no to injustice, perhaps others could too. Ambassadors from a dozen worlds reached out to humanity. They wanted to learn how the humans had built their secret fleet. They wanted to understand the philosophy that made humans willing to risk everything for a single child. They wanted to know if Earth would stand with them if they chose to resist their own oppressors. The word spread through the dark corners of the galaxy. It traveled on trading ships and diplomatic channels and whispered conversations in places where hope had been dead for generations. The humans were protectors. They would fight for those who could not. Fight for themselves, and for the first time in 10,000 years. The tyrants of the galaxy began to look over their shoulders, because somewhere out there, watching and waiting, were the children of Earth, and they had made a promise that they intended to keep.